People ask me who is the greatest driver of all time, and to be honest, I sometimes give different answers depending how I feel at the time, because it's so difficult to compare drivers from one generation with drivers of another, because the circumstances were different.
You have your Fangio, you have your Stirling Mosses, you have your Phil Hills, and they're all racing cloth caps, sometimes with gloves, sometimes without, mostly in T-shirts, it has to be said. A few of them have got a pot belly.
Michael, I don't want to ask you a million questions, I just wanted to say hello. The old boys back in Formula One. Have you had a good winter?
Michael Schumacher was super fit. He'd been trained and groomed from a young age to be fast, fit, mentally and physically ready, basically.
He was the first scientific professor-like mathematician, but with the guile of an assassin.
Yes! Michael Schumacher takes the lead!
Statistically, Michael Schumacher is the most successful driver of all time, but that's only the beginning of the argument.
For me, Fangio is more of a hero than Ayrton. Why? Because he didn't have a helmet, he didn't have seat belts, and in those days, if you had a crash, the chances are you only had one crash, because it's going to kill you.
In my years of driving, if I raced for a 5-year period, there was a 2 out of 3 chance I was going to die.
Undoubtedly, I think the most charismatic, undoubtedly the most mystical, was Ayrton Senna. I'm not putting myself up as a genius, because it's pretty obvious to everybody straight off in his Formula Ford days.
Well, Michael Schumacher, in my opinion, and it just has to be an opinion, is the greatest of all time, not just because of the figures, but because in 1995, when he was already a double world champion for Benetton, he voluntarily left the team when he could have stayed and won more world championships, to accept the challenge of bringing Ferrari back from the doldrums to the greatness that it had had in the past. And he's achieved that brilliantly, and he's done it by sheer leadership, by persuading the right sort of people to join the team. Ross Brawn, the technical director, Rory Byrne, the design director, and various other people. And Michael Schumacher has led all of them absolutely superbly. Now, on top of that, I think he's an absolutely cracking bloke. Not everybody agrees with me, but I used to interview him virtually every race, and he was always extremely courteous, extremely helpful, very cheerful, came to my leaving party, which I regarded as a very great honour, and he's altogether a top bloke. So for me, he just about shades Fangio, who I always regarded as the greatest of all time, until Michael Schumacher came along.